Guys, you know how you've been bothering me for the longest time to create a podcast? Well, Anchor is what made it happen. Have you heard about Anchor? Because it's absolutely free. It's an app that you can use on your iPad, your phone, or you can use it on your desktop computer. And it'll distribute your podcast to Spotify and Apple and all over the place where podcasts are available. It's everything that you need to make your podcasting easy. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome to Oz and Company, our very first episode, and I am honored this afternoon to have you here with the one and only Indian Lou, my dad, or as many of you call him, Papa Oz. Welcome to the show.
Papa Oz, huh?
Papa Oz.
Okay.
As many of you know, I call him Indian Lou. That comes from the fact that my father owns a Indian motorcycle and over the years has become famous for being 335.
I've also been known as Oyster Lou or Shit Scraper.
Shit Scraper. That was a good one.
How do you catch oysters?
How do you catch oysters?
You scrape the shit off the bottom of the ocean.
Exactly.
You know?
And many of you may not know that my dad was how did we phrase it? Natural growth. A natural growth oysterman in Long Island Sound when I was growing up. That's what he did. He went out on his boat and he oystered and eventually moved on.
Well, the industry dies just like, it's a cycle.
Yeah.
It comes and goes. You have good years, you have bad years. Sometimes you just got to take your loss and move on.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. It's life, and you guys wonder where I get it from, because this is who raised me. So,
I wouldn't say that too loud.
So anyways, we're going to talk today about Dad and his hitchhiking stories from when he was a teenager. I believe today we're focusing on your Canadian trip.
Yeah, you can call it that, yeah. It was between my junior and senior year in high school.
So you were what, 17?
Yeah.
16, 17?
17 going on 18.
And a lot of people may not know this, but when my dad was 14?
Yeah, 12, 13, 14, somewhere around there.
My grandmother passed away from cancer.
Oh, no, when Grandma passed away, I just turned 16.
It just turned 16. So that's where a level of that freedom came from, because...
Well, I had an older brother. I had two older brothers and two older brothers, two older sisters, a younger brother and a younger sister. I was in the middle. And the older two were out of the house. And then when my mom passed away, it's basically I had an older brother and an older sister who wanted to be my parents because my dad worked, all kinds of crazy hours. He lost his wife with 7 kids. It wasn't easy,
No, that's a lot of kids.
Yeah, so
all those
I was
big
always
families.
my mother always said, you can do what you want, but you get yourself in trouble, you get your ass out of trouble. Don't call me.
That's what I was always told.
Yeah, well, it is, man. You got to suffer the consequence.
So after that level of freedom where he couldn't get checked on as much, he utilized that newfound freedom to do exactly what everybody was doing in the late 60s and early 70s.
Well, I look at myself. I was born in the 50s. I was raised in the 60s, but I came of age in the 70s. So in the 60s, I could see what was going on, and I knew what was going on, but I wasn't old enough to participate. I turned 16 in 1970, and from that point on, I don't remember too much.
I think we all have those little pockets of shit we don't remember from those years.
There was an old saying: if you remember the '60s, you weren't there.
So between your junior and senior year, this is 1970.
Probably 1970. Yeah. Well, what happened was I had a part-time job at a grammar school as a custodian's helper, and I would work there 3 hours a day after school, and that was it. Monday through Friday. But in the summertime, I was allowed to work 6 weeks out of 10 weeks. So I could work 40 hours a week. So I had 4 weeks off in the summer. So I just saved my money and they tried calling me back to work early after like 3 weeks, and my sister answered the phone and said, "Well, I don't know where he is. I haven't seen him in 2 weeks."
Which sister was that?
Joanne.
Oh, man.
That was the one who played the part. She wanted to be, the parent.
Yeah.
So.
I think that at those ages, like with Dylan, even when we lost Dawn, I wanted to parent Dylan until I realized that it wasn't helpful. So
No,
we had to find a different avenue.
It's tough. Okay, well, anyway, so you want to talk about going through Canada. Well, anyways, to make a long story short.
You have to remind everybody where you started. So
Well, I'm going to start from the beginning.
Okay.
Okay, like I said, so in the summertime, I had 4 weeks off, and, I put my money away. And I used to do a little camping here and there, hitchhiking, but not too much. And I'd get myself a couple cans of corned beef hash, a couple cans of beef stew, and, a little fire, and you filled your belly, and it didn't cost much. So anyways, the guy says to me, he goes, "Come on, you want to go to Toronto?" So I said, "Well, what the heck? We had nothing to do." So we stuck our thumbs out, and we ended up in Toronto. We spent, like I said, I feel sorry for the kids nowadays because you can't do stuff like this.
No, even my generation growing up, even the 90s and the 2000s kids, it was already far past the point where you could stick your thumb out and hitchhike without getting hurt or becoming America's Most Wanted story or Unsolved Mysteries or something like that.
Well, yeah, like I said, so we ended up in Toronto, and but then back then they had youth hostels, and mostly around the college campuses where you can go there and spend the night. You're allowed to spend 4 nights and it wouldn't cost you anything. And if you wanted to, they'd give you room, you sweep the floor, and they give you a ticket, and that would entitle you to 2 eggs, piece of toast, and a cup of coffee in the morning.
So,
but after 4 days, you had to move on.
You're on your way.
Right. So we stayed in Toronto for a few days, and me and Cutter, we're sitting in the Yonge Street Mall in downtown Toronto, and we're smoking a bowl. And next thing we know, he goes, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And we turn around, and it was a Toronto cop.
In a foreign country.
So he's like, "Well, what are you guys doing? What are you up to? Anything good? Where are you from?" So we told him where we're from. He goes, "Well, you are in a foreign country, so I'd be a little careful with what you're doing." And he turned around and walked away.
Sitting there smoking weed out in public, and the cop was like, "You might not want to do that. Bye, guys."
That was 1970.
Welcome to Canada, too.
So, we hung around Toronto for a couple of days, and then we hitchhiked up to Montreal. That's where that story comes from. See, we got to a point, I think it was Kingston, where the bridge goes over to New York, and just a little west of Montreal, if I remember correctly. So, we get dropped off there. So, here it is. That was late in the afternoon. And we're walking underneath the viaduct, and there's a couple of guys sitting up there. Okay, so, "Hey, how you doing?" They didn't say anything. So we said it again. They didn't say anything. So we did it in universal language. "Hey, you want to smoke some hash?" And they understood that word.
Weed is the universal language.
So anyways, so we sat up there, and next thing we know, about an hour or two goes by, and a couple people come walking up. There's 2 guys and 2 girls. And they were hitchhiking down the road. I don't know how far back it was, but it was hot and it was middle of the summer. So there was a pond over there, so they figured I'd go freshen up and maybe go for a swim. Well, they come across a whole field. So they threw away everything they didn't need.
A whole field of marijuana.
And they threw away everything they didn't need, and they stuffed their backpacks with this stuff. They come up there.
That's what I would do.
So there was like 8 of us up there. We spent the night.
In the weed field?
No, underneath the viaduct.
Oh.
We had just one big party.
That would be a big party.
Well, the next morning we go up to Montreal. Well, we tried to get up to Montreal, put it that way. We sat in that one spot for 6 hours. We're the last ones to get the ride.
Oh.
And you can't just say, "I quit, I'm going home."
You're trying to.
It doesn't work that way, You just got to grin and bear it and have a lot of patience, I've been stuck a couple of times for quite a long time. So we get up to Montreal, hanging around the park there. And, this guy and his girlfriend were, sitting there and they're just talking. So we started talking to them. So he says, well, I got to go. And he leaves. She goes, come on. She takes us to her parents' house. They let us use the shower. They gave us a nice dinner, and we were on our way. I'll never forget that woman. Her name was Violet Hunt.
Violet Hunt.
From Montreal.
From Montreal.
But it just goes to show how different people were then.
Violet, if you're out there, shout out to you, Violet.
Or if anybody knows her.
Or if anybody knows Violet.
I'll never forget her. You know?
Send this in her direction. Maybe Violet's out there. Thank you for taking care of my dad during those hippie-esque escapades.
Well, so we spent a couple days in Montreal, and then from there we headed back south. So we ended up coming across that bridge in Champlain, New York, and we're going through customs. And we take our backpacks and we just kind of toss them on the counter there because we figure the custom guys are going to go through it, you know. And so he just looks at us. He goes, "Oh, you guys are hitchhiking?" We said, "Yeah." He just pushed them back at us and says, "Good luck." So, you know, we look at each other. We didn't think nothing of it. You know, we walk out the back door and there's a New York State trooper sitting in his car with his finger pointing saying, "Come here, buddy."
Got him.
So we ended up getting arrested for pedestrian on the interstate. Because we had no choice. We come through customs and come right off onto the interstate. So he takes us to, I guess you could call it a kangaroo court, you know. It was a restaurant, and the courthouse was in the back of the restaurant, and the judge was in there eating his breakfast. So we sit down, he kind of looks at us, and we talked a little bit, and he says, "Well, I'll tell you what, this is a written warning." He said, "Don't do it again." Okay, fine. The cop says, "Come on, I'll give you a ride back to the highway." It's like, you know, but then again, you know, you could stand on the ramp to hitchhike, but you weren't allowed on the interstate. So as long as we stayed on the ramp, and we got a ride in the back of a pickup truck. From there, all the way from the Canadian border, all the way down to Danbury, Connecticut.
That's a long ride.
That was a long ride. But, you know, in the summertime, it's cool. You're laying in the back of the bed of a pickup truck. Nobody cared.
God, my anxiety just thinking about traveling in the bed of a fucking pickup truck on an interstate right now makes me want to die. All those worst case scenarios of like fucking something flying in the back of the truck. Like, that's where my brain goes.
Yeah, so anyways, we got back home, and I don't know, I think I was home for about 2 days. And another guy, a friend of mine, was getting ready to go to school up in Northeastern University up in Boston. Mm-hmm. I think it was Boston. It was Boston or Rhode Island.
Boston's Northeastern.
Northeast or Kingston University. It was one of the, well, anyways, to make a long story short, he says, "Come on, you want to go?" That's what the heck, I ain't doing nothing. So next thing you know, we pop our thumbs out and we're up in Boston. So he checked out the school there, and we were hanging around the Common. We hung around the Common for about 3 days. And there was a guy there by the name of Dusty from Denver, Colorado. And boy, was he burnt.
Dusty from Denver, if you're out there.
He was burnt, you know. But, you know, we met him panhandling down in the Common just to get a couple of dollars so we can continue on. So we left Boston, and from Boston we went to Bear Brook National Park. And we got a campsite there, and next thing you know, the sky is opened up. We sat in a pup tent for 3 days, and to the point, I don't know if anybody ever spent 3 days in a pup tent, but it doesn't matter what you do or how hard you try to stay dry, that water gets in. Oh. And we were miserable.
Wet.
So one night, the last night we were there, this car pulls up, and these guys are trying to set up a tent. So we went out and helped them. They were from Georgia, and what a blessing they were. They had a whole trunk full of welfare food. That was back when you got a can that said, it was a silver can that had
government cheese.
Yeah, government cheese, government beans, peas, corn, whatever, and they had a whole trunk full of it. So we ate good that night, you know, and we stayed dry. And he says, "You know what? We're out of here. We're going over to Arcadia National Park." Okay, fine. So we packed everything up and off to Arcadia we went, you know. So we spent a couple of days there and then back down into Connecticut, you know.
Those were the days.
Oh, yeah. So anyways, I'm sitting there in my senior year. I go into a class, and it was first day of school, and the teacher's saying, "Oh, what did you do over the summer?" "Well, I went to Disney World, you know." And I asked somebody else. "Oh, I was hung out at the beach." So he comes to me and said, "What did you do?" I said, "Well, let's see. I hitchhiked up to Toronto and Montreal, over to back down over to Bear Brook National Park, over to Arcadia." And the teacher's just sitting there with his jaw wide open like, "Are you kidding me?"
Can you imagine the teacher was probably like, this kid did more shit than I did.
Yeah, well, a lot of, I've done so much stuff in my life. Some people never have. But then again, what I've done is only a portion of what other people have done. It's a big world out there, man. You don't know what it's like until you get out there. I mean, this country, when you get in a car and you drive 24 hours a day for 3 days just to get to the other side.
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, and the national parks are absolutely beautiful no matter where you go.
Okay, so let's see. Yeah, it was a good time. You know, it was a good time to grow up. You know, I grew up in a beach community where I could walk to one beach was 500 yards. I could walk to the mouth of the river, which was another 500 yards. So all summer long, most of the time we just hung at the beaches, had a good time. You know. Matter of fact, they wrote an article about the seawall, the place we grew up at, and there was 2 restaurants there and a hotel. It was just only about maybe 300 yards long, the whole seawall itself. But it got to the point where it got so crazy down there that they said that the 2 restaurants that are located down there should be located in Paris, France, not in Lordship.
Really?
So he says nothing to see a car pull up in the middle of the night. Everybody gets out of the car. 2 people are dancing to the music on the hood of the car. 2 people are over here throwing up, and you see a couple over there on the beach making love.
Yeah, well, it sounds like the crew you ran with, though. I mean, I do recall having a picture of you in one of those parking lots asleep.
We were a pretty wild bunch, but you know what? I mean, we all turned out to be good people.
Well, no, yeah. You know, I mean, everybody's...
I got friends of mine that are businessmen, lawyers. I mean, it was part of the era back then. It was a different world.
Everybody walked to the beat of their own drummer.
It was the middle of the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, back then, too. So my draft was number 2, 002. But it was the last draft that Nixon had, and he didn't draft anybody.
You got lucky, but you joined anyways on your own.
Yeah, after a while there was no work around, nothing to do, and I wanted to travel. I wanted to get on merchant ships, but I had no experience and I didn't know anybody. So how was you going to experience? I spent 3 years in the deck of a Navy freighter. Oh, and besides, as my life went on, okay, I've always had jobs where I was always drug tested. I could have been drug, so you know, I mean, I could tell you some stories of what I did many years ago.
But yeah.
But that's time when I worked for a blasting company, I get pulled out. I worked the docks as a longshoreman, I get pulled out. You know, and no matter where you went, nowadays
it's different.
Yeah.
But nowadays, if you don't have a card in a lot of places,
there was no such thing as a card.
Well, there wasn't a card back then.
But then, even then, I mean, you know, it all depends on how the state or the government wants to look at it. You know, if I'm working on the docks as a longshoreman,
you have to not have anything in your system.
Exactly, and that's what they'll go for. You know, especially if you get hurt.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
You get hurt. You know, that's just their way out of not paying you.
Let's talk more about Lordship.
Lordship was a great place to grow up.
Lordship is also where I was able and very lucky to be able to grow up in a time where it was becoming more upscale than it was when it started.
Well, you know what? It was founded. It's been around for a couple hundred years, easy. But after World War II, they started developing it, and it was mostly, I'd say, 50% of it was World War II veterans.
Which my grandfather was most decorated soldier in the state of Connecticut for World War II.
And yeah, like, you know, it was just a great place to grow up, and it was mostly settled by World War II vets. I'd say a good 50% of them. They were just basically Cape Cod houses, nice little piece of property, but it stuck out on a point into Long Island Sound at the mouth of the Housatonic River. But it was a beach community. It only has, right now, to this day, it only has 1,700 homes.
Yeah, it's relatively small, but those homes now are going for
big bucks. Well,
$500,000.
People want to get out of the cities now.
Yeah.
So.
But the community was essentially built because there were so many factories in that area.
Well, that too. I mean, you had Ray Bestis that did brake shoes. You had AFCO Lycoming. Textron was right there. As a matter of fact, that was a mile from my front door. And then actually it was Champs Vaux during World War II where they made the Corsairs. There's a lot of history. Plus Igor Sikorsky flew his first helicopter right off there off Russian Beach.
Yep.
You know, and the main factory is right there in Stratford. So it was. And then you had GE in Bridgeport, you had Ruger, you had Remington Arms, but all those factories, they all moved up and they moved to China.
Well, you know, we're not going to do politics.
Okay.
Everything got cheaper. In the wake of World War II, you look at the way that the economy boomed, and you also look at the fact that corporations paid their fair share in taxes, too. But now we're at a point where everybody's sent everything offshore so much that nobody wants to pay what their fair share was or would be or what made America great back then. And that's where it all comes out.
So anyways, let's get back to Lordship.
Lordship.
See, they roll up the sidewalks there at 6 o'clock, Monday through Friday. You got buses that run Monday through Saturday. At 6 o'clock, they stop running. So unless your parents had a lot of money and you could afford a car, you had no place to go. You know? And so, I mean, now you had all these baby boomers out there. I mean, the neighborhood, we had 7 kids. My next door neighbor had 9. The Gennaros had 11. I think Colliers had, 10. I mean, they were all big families.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we had nothing to do at night. So we always end up raising hell.
Well, I remember the story of you telling me about the car that you guys had going through the dump. And through the marsh and the dump where Short Beach is.
Yeah, okay. Well, actually, one of the guys had one of these Volkswagen Baja bugs. Okay? Well, see, like I said, they chased us out of the seawall. Okay? It got to the point where it got pretty crazy down there. I mean, there'd be 200 kids down there on the seawall hanging out on Friday, Saturday, or basically even summer night, just about every night, you know? And they chased us out of there. So anyways, we were at the beach one day, and this guy had his Volkswagen Baja bug, and he's, what's that guy doing back there? And there's a guy back there on a dirt bike. And so there's all roads that go through there, you know, from the old dump. But they covered it over and capped it off. He said, really? He said, you want to show me? So I took him back there. Next thing I know, he's got this Volkswagen. He's going to town. He's going all over the place. He cuts the wheel and he starts going through the cattails. Now, I grew up down there, and the dump was right there. So we go down the dump, and we get all kinds of lumber. We used to get old mattresses. Ross and Roberts used to throw rolls of naga hide that come off the press that had a crease in it, so they couldn't use it. And they would just throw it away. So we had a floor down there. We'd dig an underground floor. We'd put the mattress down, put the vinyl along the sides, put a roof over top of it. And I'm saying, you don't know what's out here. I mean, there's junk cars out here, and he's going 40 miles an hour, and you can't see past your front bumper, literally.
Oh, my God.
You know? So anyways, we found another spot that was back down off of Sniffin's Lane there. You know, it was just a great big area. So he goes down there, and he starts doing a crop circle in the thing.
Doing donuts?
Well, just going in circles till he flattened it all out. Next thing you know, that's where we partied at. Nobody knew we were there.
Yeah, out there in all those trails and stuff. I remember growing up when I would ride BMX, and that's where we had all of our trails.
Oh yeah,
was back there.
Who do you think started it?
Who do you think made those trails? You're welcome.
Yeah. And I just can't believe, like I said, you know, there was junk cars back there, so you never know what was back there. I'm like, what are you doing? You know.
And going back to the seawall, you want to fast forward a decade and a half, where you met Mom at the seawall.
Yeah.
When you came back from California.
Yeah.
So the seawall has always played such an intricate part in my life.
Well, you know, it was a meeting center for the people in that area.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the seniors, you go down there now, and all the seniors are just sitting down there in the summer with their lawn chairs.
I have memories my entire childhood of going to the seawall on the weekends, going to Marnix and getting an ice cream cone.
Well, when you were little, you know, your mom took care of you all week long. So if I had the time off on the weekends, I'd get you up out of bed and I'd get you out of the house so your mother could sleep in.
Yep.
You know?
We went and got donuts. We'd go to
Captain's
Cove.
Yeah, just get you out of the house. Go see a hill.
I remember driving down to Norwalk in your big ass, raggedy, multicolored shitmobile truck.
Yeah, but you know what the best thing about that truck was?
You could hit anything and it wouldn't dent it.
I could leave the key in it in downtown Bridgeport.
And nobody would take it.
And come back and it'd still be there.
Because nobody wanted it.
Hey.
I remember when Kyoko, in 6th grade, when Kyoko came from Japan. She was our foreign exchange student that lived with us for a summer. She did not know what to fucking make of that truck. She saw that and was like, this is your transportation?
It was a 1975 Chevy
utility truck
that had a PTO on and a hoist in the back, which it didn't have the hoist anymore, but it still had the PTO. It had a red front end, a blue cab, and a gray bed.
Which is why I called it the multicolored crapmobile. But that's what I learned how to drive that in that thing.
Well, when you were little, she sat in the car seat, and the car seat, she's right there. Dad, can I go through the gears?
I was shifting that truck my whole life.
When she was 6, 7 years old, she was going through the gears. So when she did learn to drive, I think she was about 14. I took her down. And she got in a little Mazda truck. She bucked the clutch one time and booked. She was gone. That was it.
And then all my cars for years were stick. My Volkswagen.
You kids nowadays don't know how to drive. Don't even know what a standard is.
I know. I can't. I love driving standard. I mean, it's a pain in the ass. When we had the Corvette a couple of years ago, that was fun to drive with that.
I don't think I can get in one of those. I could probably get in. I probably couldn't get out of it.
You should have seen me trying to get in and out of it, in and out of it in heels, doing real estate. That was fun.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, thanks, but no thanks.
Okay,
so anyways, we'll
great,
wrap up.
Great
Anything
place.
else out of the?
Oh no, I got
that summer.
No,
that summer in general. The summer between your junior and senior year.
Offhand, I couldn't think. Like I said, Joe. I mean, I had 4 weeks off and I enjoyed myself.
Well, yeah. I mean, that sounds like you did. I mean, looking back to the summer, well, I mean, I did my fair share of shit, and we always fucking went to the beach. Always, even my generation, we knew to go to the beach. I remember one time being all the way down at what beach is that? The other side of Lordship. Past Marnix, the one way in, one way out. Long Beach. We were down there and we were lit. It was like 10:30 on a Friday or Saturday night. And I'm sitting there in the sand and I'm just doing my thing, and here comes this car and it has one headlight. We're like, that can't fucking be a cop. It only has one headlight. So we're like, whatever, ignoring it. Don't tell me it was a motherfucking cop. He rolled up, he's like, what are you guys doing? We're like, just leaving. See you later. We're out of here. Then we went to Dawn's. My sister was a haven for us hellions when we were in high school. She would take us in no matter what time of the night it was, and she
covered for you.
And she would feed us, and she would cover for me, and then we had some place to sleep for the night without having to go home reeking like whatever alcohol or pot we smoked that night. Oh man, those were the days. At least I got away with a little bit of it, but I mean, I definitely would have preferred to grow up in your generation.
Yeah, it was a good time to grow up. I mean, when we were kids, you drink a bottle of wine, smoke a joint. We didn't shoot nobody.
No.
We didn't hurt nobody.
Just had a good time.
If anybody got hurt, you hurt yourself. You fell down.
Yeah.
But like I said, I feel sorry for the kids nowadays.
It's definitely a different generation, and looking back on the freedoms that I had growing up, being able to ride my bike to the Penguin, or me and Caitlin ride our bikes to Zach's frozen yogurt, and be able to do those things when we were that age, because that was such a staple of our childhood. That made us who we were. I went out when the day started in the summer, and when the street lights came on, I knew where to be. And I could hear Mom clear across Lordship if she yelled for me. That Danielle! It reverberated for miles. I knew when it was like a bat call. I would come no matter where I was. But, I mean, just having those freedoms is something today that I struggle with the kids, because I want them to have that freedom.
Oh, it's a big
But
world.
The world that we're in, I have GPS on those motherfuckers when they leave the house.
The world is all screwed up.
Like, I want them to be able to go to our little neighborhood ice cream shop.
I blame that on the media. I blame that. Hear me out.
It's not just that, though.
Hear me out, okay?
It's the world being crazy.
50 years ago, if something happened in a small town, it might went to the next town. And then from there, it wouldn't go much farther.
It's the internet,
now,
too.
Yeah, or the main street.
The internet. internet ruined the
now
world.
you got the copycat people. They
Yeah.
see it going on. Something happened in Denver, Colorado. The whole world knows about it within 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And so that's
It's the internet.
you know, and it's
I
video games ain't any better either.
Well, they blame the video games, you blame the music, you blame this, you blame that. It's the lack of mental health
When
care.
I was a kid, people used to blame my long hair and my holy jeans.
Yeah, exactly.
You know
They'll
what I'm
always find something to blame.
Well, yeah, I just don't understand the younger generation. You want something, you got to go get it.
Well,
Nobody's
that's what
gonna
we're
hand it to
trying.
you.
We're
You
trying,
gotta- you
man.
gotta
You look
go
at
get
my
it, man.
generation, and we have the
How
most.
they say the world is your oyster.
When we were growing up, everybody told us, you go to school, then you go to college, and you get a degree, and then you have the American dream. So I'm glad I never went to college. Why? Because I would have this fucking astronomical student loan debt that everybody
And
has.
personally, I think the student loan should be 0.5%.
I think that
Just
the system
enough,
is broken.
you know?
The system is
definitely.
broken.
It definitely, because you know what? There's no reason why these kids got to spend that kind of money.
No.
And the banks are just making buku bucks off the these
The
student
rich
loans.
get richer,
You
and
know?
the poor die off eventually because they have to give up. I mean, it's a vicious cycle, and the billionaires just keep getting more and more and more and more and more and more money. When is it enough?
Okay, let's
not enough for some.
Let's not go there. Okay. Okay.
Anyways,
it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure this afternoon. I hope that you guys enjoyed episode 1 of Story Time with Oz and Company with my dad today. We're planning on doing a couple of these, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it and have a wonderful day. And thanks for listening. Be sure to check out chasingoz.store and patreon.com/chasingoz.